what began as a casual idea on an alpine slope became a 165-mile push into India's holy mountains, where pilgrims, glaciers, and the raw Himalaya tested a Swiss team chasing a dream.
Hey, glad you're here. Welcome to the Himalayan Journals. Here on this channel, we bring to you real stories from century old field notes. We try to keep it simple and calm here. Think of it as a documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s, covering stories of indigenous wisdom, epic expeditions, and groundbreaking science passed on just as they were recorded. Subscribe, zone out, binge.
It began with a dream, born not in the Himalaya, but in the quiet snows of St. Moritz. It was March, in the last winter of the war. After days spent on alpine slopes, Anneliese Lohner, a young mountaineer of great endurance, spoke to her guide, Alexandra Graven. "What about going to the Himalaya one day?" she asked. The idea lit a spark that would travel far beyond Switzerland. Graven, usually quiet, became almost eloquent. Within days, they had written to Andre Rock and Alfred Sutter, and soon after, the Genevan climber René Dittert joined them. The thought of the great Asian mountains no longer seemed a distant fantasy. Their plan was modest and wise. They would aim for the Garhwal Himalaya, the region of Gangotri, source of the Alaknanda, Mandakini, and Bhagirathi rivers that unite to form the sacred Ganges. Roch's experience in the area from 1939 guided their choice, while reports by Marcel Kurz, Marco Pallis, and Professor Schwartz Gruber gave them practical insight. They decided to keep away from the massive 26,000-footers that had defeated so many before them. Instead, they would focus on the 20,000ers, difficult yet attainable. By spring of 1947, the team was ready. Roch, an engineer and one of Switzerland's finest alpinists, would lead. Sutter, calm and thoughtful, valued climbing for its pure essence more than for fame. Dittert, cheerful and strong, was beginning his first Himalayan venture. Graven, the great guide of Zermatt and father of 8, carried a life shaped entirely by the mountains, and at the heart of it all was Anneliese Lohner, the woman whose idea had set the whole plan in motion. The Swiss Foundation for Alpine Research agreed to sponsor them, though with hesitation. Taking a woman into the high Himalaya was a decision that worried the council. Yet, after careful consideration, they allowed it, and time would prove them right. On May 7, 1947, the team left Zurich. Swissair carried them from Dubendorf to Amsterdam, then by KLM across Europe and the Middle East, and finally down into India. In Mussoorie, beneath the first blue shadows of the Himalaya, they met again with Roch, who had gone ahead to choose Sherpas and arrange supplies. Their journey to the mountains began on Whit Monday, May 26th. The long trail to Gangotri stretched 165 miles through the valleys of Garhwal Lohner, walked with Sutter and Graven at the head of 20 coolies and 4 Sherpas. Behind them came Dittert, the liaison officer, and a much larger train of porters. Their days were filled with the rhythm of India's hills, forests of birch and pine, cactus-lined riverbeds, small villages of mud and prayer, and the slow patience of people who lived without hurry or clock. Their Sherpas were outstanding. Tenzing, who served Anneliese Lohner, had already climbed to Camp 6 on Mount Everest. He kept photographs of his wife and daughters close to his heart and tended to every small comfort of the climbers. By May 30th, snow peaks, appeared beyond Darasu. The next day, they reached Uttarkashi, last post town on their route, alive with pilgrims bound for the Ganges, men and women from every corner of India, moved along that sacred valley, some hoping to bathe, others to die beside the holy water. The Swiss, though strangers to such faith, could not help but be moved. They pressed onward through the buzzing heat and the swarms of flies until on June 4th they arrived at Harsel, a summer village surrounded by peaks and apple orchards. They rested there 2 days, watching Tibetan traders bring salt from the north and take back rice and peas in exchange. 4 days later, on June 8th, they entered Gangotri. The heart of pilgrimage temples crowded the slopes, and the travelers met a yogi who lived alone and naked in a wooden hut. He never spoke, and when they tried to thank him for his courtesy, he pointed silently to the sky. From Gangotri, the road ended. A narrow path followed the valley through wild land, marked by bears and fallen stones. On June 10th, they reached Gaumukh, where the infant Ganges bursts from the glacier's snout. Even for those who did not share the faith, the sight was deeply stirring. A day later, on June 11th, they made camp on the right bank of the Gangotri Glacier, about 14,000 feet above sea level. It was a grassy hollow beside a moraine, with a clear stream flowing by. Their base camp, the heart of their Himalayan adventure. Here they unpacked their loads, raised the Swiss flag, and settled to acclimatize among the silence and ice. The dream that had begun in a winter cafe at St. Moritz had come true. They were at last in the Himalaya.